Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is Jonas. Reports for the 25th of November. Short week for Thanksgiving coming up, and took a couple of days to visit some people around town and back at it, though, and not a shock here. We had turned around from the brief moment of the decline that tested the 50% and was pretty strong comeback, but in the last days, unable to maintain it. And this is because the shakeout never got to a positive. You had a weak move that came through with the dip and no steel reset, starting to now. And you moved outside of the range, so this means that the continuation of this looks like it's potentially heading towards the 0% from where it looks at this particular stage, simply because you just don't have any new buyer interest. And of course, with the short week, you've got a lot of people off, so the B teams are all in place doing their thing, and yeah, that's what you get in these kind of situations. But the broader situation of the Nasdaq and some of these tech situations with the whole AI boom, and is it too fast, too much, and are they just recirculating their same story back and forth that they're each funding each other? That's not really generating revenue, so to speak. So they're investing huge. It's a question of will it pay off, and some people are starting to question how that dynamic works forward, particularly when it comes to electricity and the ability to do it. And there's all this talk about how they're going to bring online all these mobile nuclear reactors and stuff, but this is all time down the road, and it may not be as quick as they anticipate, and that could pose some tension. And so profit taking certainly appropriate at this particular time. Does it end a potential Christmas rally? Not necessarily. It's just where things are at this particular stage. You're not seeing any benefits from a war standpoint, which means no change in oil, and because of that, you don't have cheaper oil, which is a problem economically. Then you look at the individual situation state by state within the U.S., and you got a lot of conflicts as far as growth potential. From a Treasury standpoint, the Fed is diversely ambivalent. Some think they need to do something, others don't. Some are still worried about tariff inflation going nowhere. And so you can see from oil, it's still stuck in the same range. And until it breaks below these lows, your ability to see significant economic improvement, all you're doing is absorbing the inflation that's taken place over the last few years. And that, unfortunately, is going to take a lot of time. And again, we talked about this is not going to be until, now you're looking at late spring or earlier before there's any significant noticeable change. And all that investment, while true, going to take a while. No question about that. This has been exciting for the Eurozone because they think the war is going to continue and they're going to be free flowing of money while the U.S. suffers economically. That's their theory. How much credibility is in it? I don't know. I don't think much, but that's a whole different story. So from a gold standpoint, pop up in that, but again, it's still fighting whether or not inflation exists, how much debasement, how bad are the deficits now that the government's reopened, how much continuation of the lawfare thing continues to struggle. And so, the investment being pulled from the crypto sector continues, and, we have this positive extreme set up from here, finally reached it. No shock within that standpoint. And you can see it's been incredibly weak from a shakeout. You had this brief moment where the pop came up to the 50%, unable to hold it immediately, and that was the signal that it was still going to continue south, and there's been no change from that view. Not as bad from a ETH standpoint, but it's all relative to the same thing. We had talked about all these positive extremes that needed to be filled from back before. There's still a couple more to go. So you're looking at 2800 range there is your bottom side, not finished. From a 50K, pretty straightforward to see. We ended up with sort of a blasé intermediate move from the other day, but then as we start the stronger portion of the holiday week developing, we got a sell signal, and it just remained all the way through, and it's continued from that particular point. Strong MBI weight leads throughout it. It was just a matter of once that magenta broke below the 25, and these are so clear. It makes it rather simple. that's the importance of having the indicators from that standpoint, because it's pretty clear how that was going to go, and there was really never any chance for a turnaround with the NBI leading the entire way through. You had tiny little attempted spurts, but nothing, and you got the one brief move that got to above 25 and couldn't even get to the 23%. That's death nail right there. So the move up that came with magenta fading just made it easier. You can see that it's still pretty ugly from a 50K standpoint. No change whatsoever. Not even worth looking at the intraday. And so, a lot of excitement, and the volatility, unfortunately, has not really abated because of these question marks as far as where things go economically, and that really has been kind of the one thing that we really were looking to see, a little bit of volatility contraction, but it didn't happen. And now you see this evident weakness that comes from that as new money is just not piling into the setup. We're going to obviously have the holiday, then you'll begin new money coming in for that, but it'll be a much cheaper price. So will they see an advantageous buying opportunity? That remains to be seen, because I think it really is going to depend on some of the data that starts coming through now that the government's open and people can start to see, where things really are. Because, will that data be accurately reflecting what they're seeing from a lot of the private sector data, and will it match? And that becomes the real question mark. But I think there's still some more trauma and pain ahead before things stabilize. I mean, there's obviously potential good on the horizon, but it's months away from that taking place. So that's the long and the short of it for now. As always, anything relevant, I'll put on the team chat. Have a good one. Trade well.